Hey guys, it's Ashley. I was just wanting to jump on and do a quick video on how to do a print file for a very simple single color design in Photoshop. So currently I'm in Adobe Illustrator. We create all of our files in Adobe Illustrator because we also cut these with these images with a fiber laser, and this gives us the ability to export as a DXF. So this file was created in Adobe Illustrator, but for the print we need to go over to Adobe Photoshop. So I've showed you guys this before on the other videos that we create things with layers. This one is a very simple design. Doesn't have multiple colors, doesn't really have anything special about it. So it's really only one layer, the meta layer. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to export this to get to Photoshop. So we're going to export it as a Photoshop file. And so Photoshop PSD. And so then this comes up. We created this file in a color mode RGB, not CMYK. We have a CMYK printer, but we actually do better with RGB for some reason. But if you try to save it as CMYK, even though you create it in RGB, you can see here that the right layers gets grayed out. And you really want to be able to write the layers whenever you export your file. So you got to stay in the color mode that you created the file in. The resolution, we always want to keep it in 300 ppi, so keep that there. And then write layers. So we definitely want to keep the layers in this instance. It's not as big of a deal, but it's much easier to deal with in Photoshop if you just write layers with maximum editability. So okay, we'll do that. It'll take just a minute, and then we'll go over. Oh, it doesn't look like I have Photoshop open right now. Looks like it got quit. So I'm going to open Photoshop, and then we'll go to that file. What was the coffee cup? There's my PSD file. So okay, so here we are in Photoshop. You can see here that it pulled the file over very tight to the design. This doesn't give us any room to create bleeds, so we're going to have to edit the canvas size. It's an 18-inch design, so we'll just go ahead and make it a 20 by 11. That's fine. And then we zoom out and we can see we have plenty of room to create bleeds on this design now. So when we create print files, we usually have 3 layers. The first layer is our template layer, which is what allows us to print onto our spoil paper, so the print operator knows where to place the media to have the proper print location. So that's the first layer that we do. The second one is the varnish or spot layer. I'm not going to have white on this one, so I won't create a white layer, but if we were to have white, I would also create a white layer, and I'll show you why in just a minute. And then the last one is just the final print layer. So the first thing I want to do is create the template. I'm just going to press Control, and I'm going to select this thumbnail right here. And that selects your design. Because this is a single color, very simple design, it's really easy to create bleeds. You just go select, modify, expand, and we'll just do a 20 pixel bleed and press OK. So now I can just go over to our print layer and then edit, fill, and foreground. Yeah, that purpley blue is fine. So there we go. So that is our print with bleeds. Here's the actual metal that we're expecting to put down, and this is what it's going to print, which gives it a chance to like wrap around the metal and print on the side of the metal, and make sure that if there's any variation in the cut, that maybe that it was bent just a little bit or didn't, something happened on the cut, or the operator placing it gives you room for just a little bit of error. The second thing that I do is deselect, is I go here and just anything that's really tiny, any tiny holes, I go ahead and just, put the same color. I put blue, which again just gives the operator just a little bit more room for error, because one single error can make your entire print go bad, and then you can't sell that piece. So I just look for just little tiny things that can go wrong, and then I'll just fill those in. And then the varnish layer will be just basically a copy of this print layer. And then I'll go ahead and fill that with just white. And there. So CMYK white varnish is the type of UV flatbed printer that we have. We have CMYK ink and white and varnish. And so I want to put a varnish on top of this blue color because it makes it really pretty. So I just created this varnish layer just so I had something to select when we're creating our spot channel. This isn't really important in this design because it's so simplistic. I really didn't need that. I could just select this print and then create my spot channel from there. But for when you're creating your print sheets where you're doing multiple designs and you want to be able to just quickly go down the line and click all of your varnish layers to create your spot channel, this gives you that layer to be able to put in your varnish group. So to create our spot channels, we come over here to channels. If that's not there, sometimes you won't see it there. You just have to go to window and make sure you check this channels, and then it'll pop up right here. So like I said, we have 4 colors of ink: white and then varnish. White and varnish are only printed if there's a spot channel that triggers them to print. So I need to create 2 different spot channels. So the first one for my particular printer is white, and I always color code this as red. And my whole team knows that red is indicated that there is a white spot channel. So they know that, and it just makes it really easy for our team to be able to do quick visual checks to make sure our print is going to go correctly. So that's spot color white, and then I'll create our spot color varnish. And your printer can't read what you're writing here. That's strictly just for whoever is going to be viewing this file. And this color right here, that's strictly whoever's viewing this file. The printer doesn't see this stuff. It doesn't matter what you write here or what color you do here. That's just part of our internal SOPs, so, or standard operating procedures. So now I have both of these spot colors. So now if I were to only want varnish, which is what I want, I still have to have this spot color here just with nothing on it. So that way when the printer is trying to decide, what inks to lay down, it knows like, oh, this spot is blank, so I'm not going to print white, and this one isn't blank, so I'm going to print varnish, and vice versa if I only had white and not varnish. But it needs both to know, it needs both of them to be filled so it knows what it's printing. So even though I'm only creating a spot channel, varnish channel, I still have to create this white. So I'm going to go over here, and then I press Control and I select this thumbnail just like I did before. Go to my print layer and then click on the spot. I'm wanting to create a varnish. So here, right here, this slider up on this color is where you can tell the printer how much ink you're wanting it to lay down. There's other ways on your RIP programs or your driver programs to have additional tools at your leisure to be able to add inks there, but this is how you do it inside Photoshop. And with our varnish, we always do 100% varnish. And the reason for that, 100% is down here, 0% is up here, 50% is right around here, and there's anything in between. For varnish, we notice that if we just did 50% varnish, it's actually a matte color. It's not it's not that super glossy look that we're going for. So adding less varnish doesn't actually make it just less ink. It actually changes the visual appeal of it. So we always go to 100% varnish. So right now I'm clicking on this spot color varnish. I have the selection that I want. And then this is the important part where you press Alt Delete. I don't know how to do it any other way other than pressing Alt Delete. I don't know the long way around it, but I pressed Alt Delete and you can see that it changed this color to that purple that I chose when I first created this spot channel. Now that doesn't mean it's going to print purple. It means that that's my cue to know that my spot channel was actually, it took it. And now the printer will know that I'm going to want my varnish over that spot. And if you save it and you look at it, it's not going to look purple on your thumbnail. It's going to look blue on your thumbnail on your computer, but this will allow your printer to know that you're going to be, in fact, placing varnish there. So that's a real quick overview of how we create bleeds for a very simple single color design, and how we create our files. I can probably delete this file, this layer now. And that's just the real simple template, varnish, and print organization that we do. I would then go and save. See, look, now I have my spot channel. So let me just show you one thing. So normally I would save my template layer first, just save it just so if my team needed just to do one single print, they could pull the template and then go back and pull the print file. I've already created my spot channels, and on the template layer I don't really want this spot channel, because if I were to print right now the way that it's showing, it would print my template but then also print varnish over it, which is not what I want. So why don't I go ahead and just save my print file. I hid the varnish and the template layers. I only have my print layer and all of these open. So I'll go ahead and just save this as Coffee Cup 18 varnish print. And that way my team just knows I gotta look to make sure that the varnish is on there, because if they don't see that, then maybe they might miss that that was the graphic designer's intent to have a varnish layer or a spot channel added. I want to save this as a TIFF file, and a TIFF file is important to save. Your printer will recognize probably a JPEG, but the JPEG isn't going to have your spot channels. Like, it won't have the spot channels on there, so it's just a flat image. So you don't really want to save that if you have spot channels. So we just make it a habit, even if we don't have spot channels, always save it as a TIFF. It's a much larger file, but we just make that habit so it doesn't get missed. And then we go ahead and press save, and then when this pops up, there's image compression, LZW, interleaved, IVMPC, RLE. This is just our settings that we do. I don't know what happens if we do it any other way. And then this part is very important. For some reason, one time, this was checked. One of them was checked. And it created just a flood of white behind my image. And I printed, and it ruined my print, because I didn't intend for there to be a white, and it just flood white over my entire file, and it ruined that print. So this is very important that you don't have anything checked here if you want the printer to know that you have your spot channels how you want them. So, and then press OK. And that one is saved. And then now I'm going to go back and save this template layer, and I'm just going to delete my 2 spot channels just so nothing weird happens when I do my template. Looks like my template didn't actually save from when, oh, I wonder if I didn't do my template when I first did it earlier. Okay, so I had the metal layer here before, and the metal layer was essentially we expanded by 20 pixels. So now I'm going to go and I'm just going to contract this by 20 pixels. And that's what my metal layer was. And I'm kind of going backwards here because it looks like I didn't show you how to make the template, which is super important when you want your print operators to know exactly where you want them to place the media, and in our case it's metal, so they know, that way the printer prints exactly where you want it to print. So I can just go ahead and, for your purposes, go back to having what we had before, and I'll just fill this with black just so you can see what it looked like. And that's what it looked like when we first started this video. And so then I would just Control select this thumbnail that selected the entire image. You can see that where I had filled in is gone. There's like one hole here, a hole here, and then a little bit of a hole here that we don't have right now. But that gives my operator enough to be able to line up the metal that I'm not really worried about missing those things right now. Go back to the template, and then I want to go Edit, Stroke. And this is the stroke that we're going to use to go in the center of the line that I have for this metal layer. And we make our stroke 10 pixels wide. That's pretty wide. It gives the print operator enough to be able to see the line on the outside when they're placing the metal. If you have it too small, then when they place their media, it's just going to completely cover up the line, and then they can't make sure that it's not cocked or anything like that. So you want it to be enough that it is outside the media just a little bit, but not too big that it gives them too much play when placing the media. If you have a really intricate design that maybe has a lot of colors, and it is super important that it is placed exactly where you want it to be placed, then you want to probably put like a 5 or a 7 pixel stroke. But for this really simple design, I'm not worried about, maybe it's shifted over a pixel or two when they're placing the media, because everything's the exact same color. So I'm not really worried about that. And then you want to make it a bright color, so that way when it prints on the spoil paper or spoil board or whatever you have on your print bed, that it's just a really bright color for them to be able to see it, bright or dark. Okay, and now I'm going to get rid of that metal layer, and this is our template. And so that way the print operator will take the piece of metal and just place it on the print bed exactly in this spot, and then when you go to print, then it's going to print this over your template. Now if you had your template as a different color, let's go ahead and make it a different color. Edit, Stroke, let's make it bright purple. Deselect, and then say your template layer is on top of your print layer, and you open this. If you accidentally forget to hide your template layer when you're saving your print layer, then this is what you're going to print, and then it's going to ruin your media. So I always just try to make it a habit that my template layer is all the way under my print layer, so even if I accidentally have this open when I save, that it really doesn't matter because it's covered. So now I'm going to go ahead and just save my template, which is backwards for how I usually do it. I already saved the print layer. I have no spot channels, remember. And I'll go ahead and just save this template layer in here, and then I'll just call this template. My team knows that that's what they need to use to print first before they place the media. Save it as a TIFF file, and same settings for this. There's nothing that's going to change compared to what I showed you before, and press OK. Alright, well that's how you create bleeds for a very simple design, and save your files with varnish or spot channels. And if you have any questions, let me know, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.